Welcome back to another incredible episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am the podcast mogul Phil Better. And today we have a guest whose journey through the world of luxury design and entrepreneurship is nothing short of inspiring. She's a true global citizen, having traveled to over 60 countries, yes, 60, and designing homes for presidents and dignitaries across Central and South America. After founding her first interior design studio, Cadocus Folium in Costa Rica in 2006, sorry. She expanded her firm across multiple countries before bringing her international flair back to North Carolina with her U.S. division, CBB Design Firm. She's an expert in creating stunning residential, commercial, and historic renovational designs, turning spacious into luxury escapes. But her entrepreneurial spirit doesn't stop there. She's founded Morgan Stewart Logistics, a company that ships luxury furniture worldwide, and Boot Couture, a sustainable luxury handbag brand that turns upcycled material into fashion while giving back to local women's charity. You said you did 3D design. I'm feeling like this is wrong.
I do a whole bunch of stuff.
You do a lot.
I didn't tell you all that. I said
No, you didn't. I'm reading this and I'm like, I hope I have the right intro.
You do.
Okay,
Keep going.
good.
Okay.
Phew. On top of doing 3D design, she's like, her entrepreneurial doesn't stop there. She's doing luxury furniture, sustainable handbags. She has a whole bunch of stuff, and she's giving back to her community. Her passions are like up the wazoo here. Like, she's incredible. Like, I just want to introduce you guys to Colleen Bennett. Colleen, you're like a superstar. Like, I didn't know this. Like, we as everybody knows, you have a pre-call or just like a pre-green room space. You talk, and she's like, yeah, we do 3D design. We worked with all these things, and we went big. I'm like, I'm going to ask about that. And then I'm reading this, and I'm like, this doesn't match. And I was scared here. Like, I read the wrong intro once on an episode. I'm not gonna lie, and then I had to record it. But like, what else do you do? If I'm missing the 3D design, am I missing anything? Is that everything, Colleen?
Well, thank you, Phil, for having me on. No, that's currently what I'm doing. Like basically it just continues on. So those are still happening. They're just continuing on. So like, yeah, I started in 2006 with my husband, my boyfriend, current husband. Keep him.
We'll keep him in there. He's part of the journey.
So basically, I had worked. I went to Wake Forest and I triple majored in politics, history, and Spanish. And I was gonna just be a lawyer, and that just did not appeal to me after I bombed my LSAT, probably from having too much to drink the night before. But things happen. Oopsie. And ended up in the furniture industry working for a company called Drexel Heritage, now defunct, and some other really big names here in North Carolina, and got to travel the world. Like, basically, like, do you know furniture? I was like, nope, but I do know politics, history, and Spanish, and I can say many things in a foreign language. I think I've studied Russian history. Sure, send me to Russia. And they did. Yeah. So it was cool. I got to go to like the Kocelny Sheshkaya right outside of the Red Square, and I got to go to like 60 countries, and I learned interior design organically because they were like, "Yeah, she's an interior designer." I'm like, "No experience,
none." I know history and how to do politicky things.
You're really okay. I think the sofa looks great. Yes. So I was like, okay. So I learned. I learned how to build my own piece of furniture. I learned how to do frame to fabric. I learned how to do all these retail spaces because we used to have to do it like 100 stores in like what we call Fashion Week, which is market during High Point. So I learned how to do that right out of the get-go. And then I learned organically how to do residential and commercial, because then you could see the space without even being there. Because they're like, visualize my store. And you're like, okay. And so what ended up happening was, in order for me to visualize it, I had to go to 60 countries because I had half the world in Russia. So that was my life, was learning from all these different cultures and eating my way through all these different cultures, because they would take you to these amazing places to go eat food. And I just became, in 2 years, it was really cool. I got to see the world everywhere. And then I got tired of that. And my husband graduated from MBA school, and I was like, let's let's go someplace where I speak Spanish, please, for the love of God. Like, it's not working in Asia. I mean, it is, but I would really flow. I would function better. Porque yo hablo español y cuando estoy con mis clientes no hay ningún problema. Entonces, así es. So people, yeah, that look on your face, that's usually what people do when I start speaking.
I'm the one used to getting that response because I usually speak in French to people who are not used to French, and they give me that response. I'm not used to having that response. I got some of it, but not all of it.
But yeah, no, you don't expect it out of someone like me. So like so we basically moved down to Costa Rica in 2006, and that's how I became an entrepreneur. Not because I wanted to, because I'm sorry, we're in my office and it's
It's
open.
fine.
But we had to have a shell corporation called Catechus Folium, and then so we could receive payments and pay ourselves and do all that stuff. And so while I was down here, the person who I was working with, they went bankrupt during the 2006, when the economy collapsed. Great day.
Yeah, fun day.
So we actually started our first business on the day Bear Stearns crashed. We literally, if you think you're nervous about what you're about to do with your office, can you imagine going, wait, did the whole world just tank? And we just got an office that cost them a chicken, a donkey, and a turkey.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of our clients, so down there you can say gringo and it's not a bad thing. So all of our clients were gringos. And then all of a sudden there were no gringos. They were gone. They were gone. Okay. So we started working with the local people of Costa Rica and really getting into like the society there and working in with the designers and that. And then we took off. So we ended up being like the Amazon of high end. We brought, well, our thought was, hey, look it up online. Instead of me bringing it down here in red and you want it in blue, instead of investing $3,000 in something that you don't want, why don't we figure it out on the internet? And people are like, that's a crazy idea. Who would do that? And I'm like, well, it sounds like a genius idea because I don't have to inventory anything. And we ended up doing like maybe 25 to 30 containers our first year, which was crazy. And so we went from like buying from one company to like hundreds of companies in our 20s, which is unheard of because typically someone who buys as much furniture as we do has to have a full on store. There's this huge store called Furnitureland South. We have the exact same amount of brands as they do, but we don't inventory, period. Like, that's just, we're like, you want to sell in Costa Rica? You want to sell in Nicaragua? You want to bring it to Honduras? Be my guest. You'll miss out on these sales. These other vendors are going to let me do it. So either get on board or get out. And they would. And we were kids. We were dumb kids. We had no idea.
Of
We had no
course, like most entrepreneurs, they don't know what they don't know. So you were doing business like you thought you had to do business.
Why worry about risk? What could happen on a container? It could fall off a boat.
How many of those did happen to you?
Not mine, but a friend of mine who was shipping bath sheets to Russia fell off into the sea, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bedding gone, frozen. Luckily, she had it insured. But yeah, I mean, you'll learn a lot of things with custom officials, and you learn. You just sit there and go, did that just happen? Oh, it did. Okay.
That's how business is done? Okay. They don't teach you that in MBA school, I bet.
No. I was like, I'm going to remember that one in my book that I write, How Not to Do Business by Colleen Bennett.
So after becoming the Amazon of Costa Rica, furniture design, um, what was next? What did you go on to
Went
next?
up to Nicaragua and there was
Okay.
nothing there. There was like nothing. And so we ended up doing we did a house lady wonder house to look like France. Like, we're in Nicaragua. Okay, done. Yeah, we did that. Had a client in Guatemala that wanted a castle. We brought parts of a castle. Hmm yeah, that look on your face is like, wait a minute. Yeah, and then
Like, what the?
mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't even ask about crazy, but okay, you're bringing the crazy. Like,
I've done dictators' houses, you name it, we've done it. I can't say their names. I've signed
of, of,
a lot
I,
of NDAs I can't say. But it was all
uh,
legal. It was all invoiced. They all
yeah,
got bank wire transfers. It was all good. We're all good. It's all good. It's all good.
you must
Yeah.
be fun at cocktail parties. I'll tell you what. Some of the
You know,
stories you may be able to share.
I was
Um,
going I wanted to be in the CIA, and now I pretty much go into the houses the CIA want to get into.
um,
Oh,
okay. Wow. Okay. Moving on to that bit of things so I don't become more onto a watch list.
you're fine. So I started my first 3D digital company in
Yes.
2010. We started it was called Outrendered, and it was the first time we'd actually done real kind of high poly and low poly, renders back then. They don't look anything like they do now, but our artist and architect who's still with me, Jorge Briseño, is incredible. So that's how I got into that. I fell so again, entrepreneur, gonna do this, and you're like, oh, we should do 3D render since we're not having the inventory. We do need to show them what it looks like. Um, so that's how that ended up happening. And then we ended up working on like the Biloxi Hemingway Hotel, and it kind of became cool. Like that's how we learned to go like mainstream. And then in the process of all this, I got pregnant and had my first daughter. So, we're going entrepreneur, mom, and then started Nicaragua right as I got pregnant. So that was like, okay. Again, you know how these things are like natural disasters, pregnancy. You're going to watch this story kind of happen.
I can
Um,
only see where I'm wondering what 2020 brings.
yeah.
Because I can only imagine.
Oh, 2020 is how I started this CBB. I mean,
Oh,
20, like literally, I started this design center 2020. I so in the middle of all this, we got a phone call, my husband and I, to rep multiple lines, Korean company, Ralph Lauren Home. So we were the account managers for all of Ralph Lauren Home. For he had Asia and I had half the world, rest of it, right? So I used to design all the stores that you would go into, like David Jones in Australia, Casa Palacio in Mexico, like any of that stuff. I would help them put all their groups. So when you walked in, that was done by us. Um, so when pandemic happened, I had Ralph Lauren and ourselves parted ways. So literally there I am going, oh, I'm starting back over. Like literally March 20th, I took my first client for my design firm in the United States. And I went from 1 to 150 in 2 years. Like with 3D capabilities, with my team, it was insane. But then I had to start back over like myself doing everything. That was a lot ordering just all those vendors, taking care of it. I mean, I did that for about a solid year and a half, and I thought I was going to die by the end of 2021. I was like, okay.
I can only imagine. Okay, so with your design firm, when you were with Ralph Lauren, right? How many people did you have under staff?
For me, for when I was at Ralph, it was just me working with all of the different teams. So if I was
Okay,
working with each country's different team, I think I was probably working with 200, 250 people.
okay, and
When,
then,
yep, go ahead. Sorry.
well, you're probably going to lead into it when you and Ralph parted ways, and you started day one. You were doing it by yourself, right?
Hmm.
Probably some help from a hubby after desperately pleading. When did you hire your first team member?
Oh, sorry. I know I did have somebody. She was phenomenal, but she
Okay,
retired. So yeah, she was my main lady. She was amazing. Her name was Donna Gurley. She was phenomenal. She had been at Drexel with me as the warehouse logistics person. So the only
okay,
reason we were able to do it was because of her. She was insane, could do anything. Um,
okay.
but then it just kind of outgrew. Do you know what I mean? It just became we weren't really doing more of logistics. It was more domestic. Um, so it kind of went that route. So it basically was we lived in Costa Rica, we expanded in Nicaragua, we left to go back to the States in 2012, got pregnant again. There's a theme. Um, my husband opened his first brewery. Literally the day we found that one out. And then we had two people, a lady from Honduras and some ladies from Ecuador that wanted to open two stores at the same time. So I opened two stores simultaneously Yeah,
while pregnant, and hubby is creating a brew.
a brewery. Yeah, so he owns Fonta Flora Brewery in North Carolina. Um,
Okay.
so we have a large, like, 20-acre farm out by Lake James in North Carolina, and then we have the brewery in Morganton and the one in Charlotte, which he also opened March 5th, 2020. Oh, and he did a hotel. Did a hotels. He did a hotel, and he opened that March 5th, 2020. So can you imagine if
Hold on. Whoa,
you're
I need to.
nervous? If you're nervous about opening your new office? Imagine opening a hotel March 5th, 2020, and then 15 days later, you close it down.
Oh, let me get this straight. Like, forget about me, right? Luckily, this episode's going to be a few days, a month or two after I've jumped into that place. And surprise, yes, I have a studio. If you haven't seen it on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram. But that's not here or there. March 5th or around there, he opens a second a brewery,
A third brewery.
a third
Hmm.
brewery. So you already had two open doing business. Then you decide to open a third one,
Yep.
as well as a hotel.
Hmm.
How many rooms was the hotel? How many doors was the hotel?
85. 85.
85 door hotel.
Oh, by the way, I'm also leaving Ralph Lauren all at the same time. Like, this is
Yeah, and of course,
all
parting
happening.
ways with Ralph Lauren, because obviously not knowing that the pandemic is coming, you're like, okay, that is you're diversified. The first two breweries are doing good. The third one just adds a brand. The hotel is going to be great because who doesn't need a hotel, right? You can now come on and maybe help the hubby out while you're looking for something else. You're doing whatever you want to do, and and you're pregnant, so
And then the S hits the fan. Oh, I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
So hubby has to obviously shut down hotel, close down brewery because not allowed people inside for a certain amount of time. What are you doing other than panicking and trying not to lose a pregnancy?
Oh, I mean, I got into people's houses because people wanted their houses designed during COVID. Don't you?
Because that makes obvious sense in a world pandemic with a pregnant woman.
Hmm.
Okay.
It was just like, okay. And like my clients were like, don't wear a mask. It's okay. I'm like, okay. Like, it was nuts. So like that's when it boomed. It literally people were trapped in their houses. They wanted their stuff done. I could work virtually. I could show them 3D virtually. It was the perfect storm for it to work. Does that make sense? Like it was
Yeah,
like
it was like it was the you hit gold because you had all the skills from the previous jobs coming into one. You created a bloody castle in Guatemala or Nicaragua, one of the two, which I'm still completely dumbfounded by. So yeah, obviously you can do all this. You're the perfect person to make money on during this crazy period of time where the perfect storm happens. So you mentioned earlier on the pre-call that you expanded like very rapidly, like from 6 to 160, something like that.
150. It was crazy.
150. Okay. Like how fast are we talking? Because some people say like rapidly it's like 4 years, but like are we talking like in like 3 months, or are we talking about a year? You went from
A year.
six to a year. You went from
A
six
year.
to 115. So how do you hire in a year that many people? Like
You
how do you
hire. You could ask my team. You hire well and you hire bad. You-
So here's the question. This is important because you probably have hired a lot of people. Given that you hired 150 people in a year period, so you probably went through a lot of people before you solid on that 150 people. Your team is currently still at that number, or
No,
are
no, no.
you
150 is the houses that I'm doing. So, like, basically, the amount of people I had at one point in time probably 20 on my staff, and then I'm probably down to like 10 now, just because we're really focusing on key people, key places where they need to be. Um, you can lose your butt with with things that can go wrong, and we learned that the hard way during some of this, and it's during that expansion, you're kind of like building the plane as you're flying. You're
oh,
like,
of
my
course.
God.
Oh, we need that. I didn't know an engine was important to flying a
We need the
plane.
door. We need the door. The door has got to go on. We got to seal it. We got to seal it because everything's going out the back. Yeah, that's kind of what it's been like for a little bit. And now it's kind of like, whoo. But Yeah, that's how it felt. And then, I think one of your questions was like, how do you take care of yourself? I did not take care of myself during that expansion. Like my health went horribly downhill. We're
Yeah.
all here to be like, well, how great are you at this? And I was like, well, my business is doing great, but my health is in such shambles. Like, holy moly. That you wake up one day and you're like, ooh, when did that happen? you know? So now I'm back into like 2025 is like health and not balance, but like health and intentional balance of trying to
Yeah.
figure out what to do to make it
See
right.
what's not important for Colleen to do, delegate that off to someone and focus on what makes the business move forward and, you know, bring back healthiness to the Colleen life, which is important. I have a question about hiring because you did hire quickly and, finding the right staff. Um, what do you think is the key? Is it hiring quickly and firing quickly, or taking your time to hire and giving chances? What do you suggest
I
to
think it all
some people?
I think it all depends. I mean, sometimes, like, for example, you just need a warm body. Like, "I need a body here, please. I need you to lift this box and put it on a truck." Like, that's okay. Like, that I totally say just do whatever, but just make sure it's a person that doesn't take your sofa and jam it through a door. Like,
I'm guessing that kind of may have happened once or twice.
you're like, "How did all this?" They're like, "Well, we put it together and we just." I was like, "No, you take it inside and then you put it together. That's why it's in the box. The box fits through the door. Then you." Oh.
I can understand why your health may have gone down
And
previously.
you
The
have a client
stress.
who was like, "You said you knew what you were doing," and I was like, "I do know what I'm doing.
I never said for
I'm
my staff.
so sorry that happened. We will have to repaint your whole house." Awesome.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But that's also
Yep.
that's part of
And
customer care, which is part of doing business and being an entrepreneur because you don't have someone that you can pay to handle that. Sometimes it's yourself.
yeah, sometimes
Because
when you're back for 2 seconds and you're like, "Whoa, what just happened?" I was literally over here. Over here.
how did the house get on fire? No one was inside the house. Um, so in-house, your staff, like that is probably a bit more important than just hiring a warm body. Because sometimes just hiring a warm body is,
No,
hey,
my staff is oops, excuse me.
no worries.
My staff is the ones that I have now or who I have now are incredible. They're like the A team of who they are. They can run circles around myself. They can, I mean, Jorge can design a house in 5 seconds. Steffi can do a bathroom and a whole kitchen in 20 minutes. Brett can solve a problem in like, okay, I found this. Let's do. We're gonna get this taken care of. And then I've got two people in Dallas, Texas,
How did you
Jacqueline and
find them?
Emily.
How did you find them? Because that's
Um,
probably the best question. Like, how do you find the people that do the best at what they do?
so
Or
Jacqueline's been working with me for about 10 years. So, and she's like a me. She just, she'll figure it out. It's like someone you could drop in the desert and be like, find water. I'll see me in 5 days. That's how she is. Same thing with Emily. That's the type of person I always look for is like, I'm going to leave you here in the middle of chaos and I need you to sort it out. And I'm not going to help you because you should be qualified. Does that make sense? Like, you should be able to find the water, build yourself a sandcastle, and be like in there and be okay. And like that should be like where your thought process should be. And that's usually what it is. It's people that think outside the box. Is what I'm looking for. Like when you're really in front of a client and it's all going haywire, how are you going to calm them down? How are you going to fix it? Because everything in design, nothing is always perfect. I always love how
Mhm.
they have these like videos, like look how pretty it is. Like, no, that was broken 5 times.
I can see the cracks.
Like, if the client knew that came in green and we finished it before we got there, we only waited for it for 2 years. It's okay.
And we double checked it 3 times with them.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like how did that? Yeah,
Whose
that's
head
the
rolled?
type. Yeah, that's That's what you have to deal with. And it's the ones that sit there and go, "Not my job." And you're like, "No, it is your job." Like, we don't
Yeah.
that's a rule that's one of the things that says that you never say it's not my job or it's that person's question. It's, "No, I'm gonna go find out and I'll get back to you," because that's the most important thing. And get back to me. Because if not, then you could be like, when you're sitting there in front of a client, well, they're gonna be getting back to me 1 hour later. You're like, no, I really have to have that now so I know where that piece is so I can calm
Get
down. Yeah.
yeah. So you're looking for people who are entrepreneurial, but not necessarily ready to be entrepreneurial.
Yeah, no, they don't wanna I don't think most of the people wanna take on that risk, if that makes
No, they want the fun of being an entrepreneur, solving problems, the kind of fun that comes with the entrepreneurial
when, like,
lifestyle.
you're doing your, like, Q3 and you have all these projects you gotta figure out for Q4, so if you looked at, "Oh, negative 178,000.
They
But I
don't
know
want that.
we're actually gonna be, like, the other side of that in, like, 2 months, so just everybody chill."
Yeah, those are the fun times. Since you've been evolving like mad, and we're coming up to the end of the episode, and I'm like so disappointed because I want to have you back on because you're so fun. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Ooh. Um, I hope I've spent a lot of time with my girls. I hope I've done that, and I hope I've showed them the world and showed it through design. I hope we've had a great time in doing that, and I hope that I'm still doing what I'm doing. I would like to do less is more, but I always say that, and then something happens. Um, but yeah, I mean, I will be 52 in 10 years.
No.
Yeah. So I'll be 52 in 10 years. And then I've got to figure out, I still like to be doing what I'm doing, just on a bigger scale. Um, but we'll see. I'd love to get back into hotels. I used to do hotels and I'd love to get back into doing that. So that'd be fun.
Well, so question: does your husband still have his hotel, or is it
Yeah, he's
complete?
actually, so it completed. It's actually the number one on the Eastern Seaboard for the Fairfield Marriotts. And he's developing a 170 bedroom hotel right now in High Point,
Let's
North
go.
Carolina, that will be open next year. So he's crushing it there. And I think he's working on 3 or 4 right now. So he's just, you remember sitting there on that day with your many tequilas watching your kid going, are we going to die?
And you look at it now, and you're like, okay, we're fine. The craziness is over. We have so many hotels.
I mean, I literally have a video of us sitting there and I have the drinks and I'm watching my kids go down the slide and they're all happy. And I'm like, we're going to die. We're going to die. We're all going to die. We're going bankrupt. We're going to die.
But
And then
look
I'm
at
like,
where you are
snap,
now.
snap out of it, snap out of it. It's all gonna work itself out. You know. That's kind of what I tell people. Like if you're ever thinking about, like, when it's really, really the worst is when you can really find the best things. Um, and I think the question I would tell myself when I was little
Yeah.
is that, you remember that dream of you going to Latin America? It did come true. And you need to be more specific on what you want to do, because saying you wanted to see the Aztecs didn't really work out. You did actually go to Chichen Itza and and Tenochtitlan, and you got to see DF. You needed to be a little bit more specific on what your dream was, because somehow you ended up being an interior designer in Central America.
Be a bit more specific. That's the advice. I think that's just great advice for everybody. Um, Colleen, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to jump off stage. I
Sure.
want you to tell everybody who's listening where they can work with you, how they can follow you, whatever it is that they need to do to, become part of your circle, because you're an amazing person. So the
Oh,
floor is yours.
well, thanks, Phil. So you can follow me on cbbdesignfirm.com. We're on Instagram at CBB Design Firm. You can go to Facebook or at CBB Design Firm. And again, if you want to work with us at any time, we work virtually from around the world and also in person. And we work with basically, thousands of vendors, and we put your whole home in 3D. So we'll be looking forward to work with you in the future.
I love it, Colleen. I want to thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. Definitely going to have you back on because I'm guaranteeing that you're going to do something spectacular in the next like 6 months. Um, so Definitely going to have you back on. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing story with us.
Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate it. I had a great time on your podcast.
Awesome. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to connect with Colleen, and make sure you follow her story because it's definitely going to be an exciting one for the next 6 months for sure. I thank you for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself.